I was in the office at my old job when the staff got into a fun and lively discussion about what we were all watching on TV, what movies we'd seen recently, and what we'd watched in our formative years. I got a little lost when we started talking about older movies and TV shows, as there were many classics I hadn't yet seen. But when everyone started excitedly talking about their latest Netflix binge, why they refused to take phone calls on Thursday nights at 10, or what they'd seen at a recent film festival, I couldn't keep up. Especially when it came to on-screen gags, character expressions, or what a reality show contestant was or was not wearing. In moments like this, I would keep to myself and drift away from the conversation, and I felt as if I was missing out on connecting with my coworkers. I made plans to get caught up to my contemporaries. I decided to spend a weekend watching movies I hadn't seen. I ran my hands over a shelf full of shrink-wrapped DVDs in my room, and I asked myself, why did I spend all of that money at the discount bin to buy these DVDs, only to have them sitting on my shelf in shrink wrap? Why haven't I watched any of them? I realized I didn't want to go through the frustration of navigating the silent on-screen menu that would come up when I put the DVD into my computer. So I went online, and I was looking for an accessible website where I could find some movies and TV shows to watch. The sites either didn't have the accessible content I wanted, or they were so inaccessible I couldn't do basic things like find and click on the play button to actually start the movie. I said to myself, there has to be a better way to do this. I mean, why was there no easy way for me to navigate a DVD menu or use Netflix with a screen reader? And I came to several realizations standing there in my room, my shrink-wrapped DVDs strewn around my laptop on my bed. First of all, it was up to me to create that better way, and I've done this by starting a company called Zagga Entertainment. Second, we all, regardless of our ability or background, love to connect over great visual storytelling. Third, the problem that I was having was not my disability. The problem was the environment. You see, I believe that people aren't disabled. It's the environment that's disabling. People aren't disabled. It's the environment that's disabling. I want to explore that with you over the next few minutes. But a little background on me. I was fortunate enough to grow up having low vision. I drew. I could read large print books. I could ride a bike without running anyone over. And I watched a lot of TV, everything from Saturday morning cartoons to The Price is Right, to watching Wayne Gretzky win the Stanley Cup with the Edmonton Oilers. Ah, memories. Right before high school, I lost the vision in my right eye. And despite this setback, I got involved in other activities to make full use of the vision I had left. I was a cool nerd in high school. I played drums in band, I ran sound and lights for our stage crew, I did some desktop publishing for our school paper, and I even got to shoot some video, all while keeping up good grades and watching everything from The Simpsons to Friends to Star Trek: The Next Generation. It was during my first year in radio and television arts at Ryerson University that I lost the remainder of my vision. I had originally planned to work in the TV industry as a technical producer, but this change in my life notwithstanding, I finished RTA and pursued other passions. Sorry, that's me there. I kept playing drums, I learned how to DJ, and I became a music producer. I even got a job working at a radio station, by far the coolest job in the world. This is where I stayed on top of what was hip and had those uncomfortable conversations about what we were all watching on TV. Now, after losing my vision, I still watched movies and TV, but it was really hard without knowing what was happening on screen. The dialogue could only fill me in on so much, and I'd miss the joke or a key facial expression or the one crucial action that would define the plot of a show or a movie. I want to show you what that experience was like So put on your blindfolds or close your eyes and watch this next scene and try and imagine what's happening. And just so that we're all honest, no peeking. Now, if you could see, it would be very easy to tell what was happening there in that clip from A Cherry Tale, which is a short from the National Film Board of Canada. Could you tell what was happening there without the soundtrack? By just listening to the soundtrack? Likely not. See, in the mid-1980s, a pioneering PBS station developed a technique called described video, or DV. DV narrates what's happening on screen in between lines of dialogue. It is to the blind what closed captioning is to the deaf and hard of hearing. DV makes it possible for people with vision loss to get the joke and to pick up on all of the subtle visual cues that are in a show or a film. Watch that clip again, this time with described video, and you can go ahead and remove your blindfolds.
Once upon a time, a simple armless wooden chair painted white sits on an empty stage with a black backdrop. A young man wearing white trousers and a short-sleeved white shirt wanders by reading a book. Noticing the chair, he strolls over to it. Absently pulling a handkerchief from his pocket, he dusts off the chair. As he starts to sit down, the chair backs away. Still reading, he reaches between his legs for the chair, which moves further away as he backs toward it. Unable to reach it, the man turns and looks at the chair as he starts to sit. When it moves, he leaps back in surprise.
There is no way that someone with vision loss could understand what was happening there without described video. Today, thousands of movies and TV shows have been described and have opened up a world of cinema and television to people with vision loss. The problem was not the disability. That pioneering PBS station designed an inclusive experience because they recognized that the environment around watching movies and TV was disabling. Now, I wanted instant access to movies and TV just like my sighted friends and family, which is why I launched a company called Zagga Entertainment. We're creating a Netflix for the blind with described video. For me, it wasn't just enough for the movies and TV shows to be described. The method of access also had to be accessible. See, today's screen reading technology makes it possible for those of us with vision loss to browse the web, use all kinds of software, and fully participate in this digital revolution that is reshaping our world. But the simple task of navigating a VOD website to watch a movie or TV show is made difficult or impossible when companies don't adhere to internationally recognized web and software accessibility standards and best practices. People aren't disabled. It's the environment that's disabling. According to the World Health Organization, over 285 million people around the world live with vision loss. In Canada, it's well over 500,000, almost a million. And 45,000 Canadians lose their vision every year. In fact, by the year 2034, the number of people in Canada with vision loss is expected to double. On a grander scale, 1 out of every 2 people in this room has or will develop a temporary or permanent disability in their lifetime. 1 in 3 families has a disabled family member. And 1 in 3 working age adults has a temporary or a permanent disability. Now, when I talk about disability, I'm not talking about an impairment. A disability is very different than an impairment. An impairment is a sensory or cognitive or physical variation that leads to a functional limitation in an individual. Some impairments are permanent, but some impairments are temporary, like having a broken leg or a sprained ankle or repetitive strain injury. I'm sure this has happened to one or two of you in this room. But impairments don't have to lead to disabilities. There are two models of disability. There's the medical model of disability, which sees the disability itself as a disadvantageous part of an individual's condition, as if they were damaged or broken. Solutions like medication or therapy or surgery are often used to manage or fix the problem so the individual can lead a normal life, whatever that is. In the social model of disability, the physical or social environment itself is seen as disabling, either intentionally or unintentionally. This can be as obvious as no ramps in a public building, or as subtle as the language we use to describe someone's impairment. International organizations like the UN and governments at home and abroad have enacted legislation that promotes the dignity, equality, education, and prosperity for people with disabilities. Legislation has created standards and best practices for almost every aspect of society. And we can now legislate and regulate everything from the way buildings are designed to how much closed captioning appears on TV. Now, legislation is an important step, but it's not the first step, because legislation doesn't lead to innovation. It's always the result of it. Why? Because the problem is not the disability. The problem is the environment. We almost take for granted how many innovations in design have come about because of the shift from the problem being the disability to the environment. Take curb cuts, for example. Everyone who came here today came across a curb cut. This is a part of the sidewalk that dips down to street level when you get to the corner. They were originally put in place to allow wheelchair users to safely cross a street. But today, anybody on a skateboard, rollerblades, or pushing a baby stroller doesn't give curb cuts a second thought. It's now the standard way we design intersections, and now everyone can benefit from a technique we developed for people we had considered disabled. If you've ever dictated a message to Siri on your smartphone, speech recognition technology was pioneered over 40 years ago for people who couldn't use their hands or type. In fact, Drag and Dictate was the benchmark in speech recognition software, and it was very, very expensive when it was first released. Today, this technology is built into almost every smartphone and operating system. Have you ever been at a bar or at the gym and seen closed captions on the TVs? While closed captions were originally developed for the deaf and the hard of hearing, today they can enhance the experience of watching a sports game in a crowded bar or your favorite TV show in a noisy environment like the gym. Optical character recognition, on-screen keyboards, text-to-speech, eye-tracking technology, these are all tools that were developed to assist those with disabilities but have now found their way into everyday use by everyone. Now, creating accessibility is the first step in designing an inclusive experience, but it's now evolving. Accessibility is now evolving into what the architect Ronald Mace calls universal design. Universal design involves designing spaces, products, and experiences that accommodate the widest variety of people possible. Universal design is being used today to design everything from computers to theme park experiences to kitchen gadgets. And companies are recognizing that disabled is not a market segment or a customer demographic. Apple takes universal design very seriously. Every computer and device that Apple sells comes equipped with built-in features to enable a variety of users with a wide variety of abilities. In fact, Apple incorporates universal design into its products and experiences to the point where it is now baked into the DNA of the company. It's just what they do. Disney strives for inclusion in its theme parks by providing visitors with large print and tactile maps, audio description headsets, and captioning equipment. This allows visitors with a wide variety of abilities to enjoy Walt Disney World or any of Disney's other theme parks. OXO is a company that makes kitchen gadgets and gardening tools. They've committed themselves to incorporating universal design principles into all of their products, like this salad spinner that can be used one-handed. Apple, Disney, and OXO have created value for their customers using universal design. They didn't do this to appease legislators or to avoid a punitive lawsuit. They made universal design a part of their branded experience. In fact, I'd go so far as saying that incorporating universal design into the planning stages of a space, a product, or an experience inevitably leads to innovation, cost savings, and customer loyalty. The question is, what kind of experience are you going to build? In this room right now are future business leaders, architects, nurses, engineers, designers, programmers, visionaries who haven't even dreamt of their next breakthrough. There may even be future lawyers and politicians in this room, and we preemptively forgive you. But I invite you to examine the experiences that you're creating, not from the perspective of someone with a disability, but as someone who believes that your experience should be made available to the widest variety of people possible. How will you incorporate described video and closed captioning into your next video production and do it creatively? How will you ensure that universal design is baked into the DNA of the people we elect to run our cities and educate our young? How will your tech startup adhere to internationally recognized web and software accessibility standards so anyone can become a loyal user or customer? What kind of society will we build when 1 in 2 of us has or will develop a temporary or permanent disability in our lifetimes? See, one day you'll need to use your phone and you'll find that you can't. One day you want to enjoy a theme park or a movie and you'll find that you can't. One day you'll need to open a can and you'll find that you can't. I'm looking forward to being a part of the experiences that you're going to create, and I believe that it is up to all of us leaders in technology, entertainment, design, and business to ensure that our world is an inclusive one. You know, perhaps the echoes of those awkward conversations I had back at the radio station were the impetus for me to boldly step out of my comfort zone and to launch my company, Zagga Entertainment. And now I invite you to step out of yours and to echo what you have heard here, this idea worth spreading that people aren't disabled, the environment is disabling. I hope that my story can inspire thoughts, words, and actions around designing inclusion for the experiences that engage us, the environments that surround us, and the stories that unite us. Thank you.